This is the original crank handle of the engine, but it's too short now, so I made a new one from a piece of pipe. It has two slopey teeth which engage if you turn the handle one way, but are released if the engine starts up. My plasma cutter is working much better these days, and it's a pleasure to cut shapes out like this. Now, because the handle's so long, it needs extra support, so I temporarily set that up. And look, it works. So now I can try the Loco with all 4 wheels installed. Now, if you remember last time, string was wound around the drive shaft by the engine, and that pulled the weight across the floor. And that level of gearing is the same as having the string wrapped around the outside of the wheel, isn't it? I think so. Now, it was a bit complicated to set up and entanglements ensued, but it did work and the Loco rattled along quite nicely. Which is interesting, but not very practical, really. And has had an awful lot of string. Now, obviously, I need to replace the string with sprockets and chain. A little sprocket on the drive shaft and a big sprocket on the wheel. But the drive shaft sprocket can't be as small as that square shaft is, because it has to slide along that shaft. So it's going to have to be at least, I don't know, twice the diameter, I suppose. But if it's twice the diameter, that would halve the gearing, wouldn't it? So, I don't know if this is going to work. I made a rough pulley to test what that would mean in practice. Of course, because it's bigger, it wrapped the string up quicker, and that moved the wheels faster, but there was more slippage on the friction wheel. And it was quite tricky holding the adjuster and pushing the clutch in at the same time. But definitely some progress, I think. So I kept going with my experiment. You see, making that top pulley is only half the challenge. I can't continue using the outside of the wheel as the other pulley, as the other gear wheel. Obviously, it would get mangled on the rails, the string or the chain or whatever. Going to need a sprocket that's big, but not as big as the wheel. But that's still a big sprocket, and it would cost a lot. I'd probably have to get one made. I haven't found one that's big enough. So far, I've spent very little on this project. Very, very little, which is a good thing. And I'm really not ready to spend a couple of €100 on a sprocket. That might not work. So I made a V-belt pulley for the top and for the bottom, thinking that I can experiment with V-belts much more cheaply, or spending less money. And I know a V-belt isn't ideal in this situation, but it's just for the experiment, okay? Now, making this second pulley smaller than the diameter of the wheel changes the gearing again. It means the Loco could go even faster, but it increases the torque needed to get it started. And there's even more chance of slippage of the friction wheel. And of course I didn't have a suitable V-belt either, so I made a farmer's V-belt, just a few turns of the string. And I tried it first with the wheels off the ground, just to check what happens. And then on the ground, and the string quickly got tangled and mangled, but the results were promising enough for me to keep going. Now, one of the things that urgently needed improving is the adjuster. Those mole grips kept getting in the way, and that gives me the chance to use this fine old wheel that I found on the market a while ago. It has a tapered square hole through it, so how to fit that to the adjuster shaft? I decided the best way would be to fill that hole with a lump of steel and then drill a hole through that steel. Of course, the wheel is cast iron, and welding cast iron to steel isn't straightforward apparently. But I don't think it's necessary anyway. I just have to weld around the new steel plug, and that should hold it in place, I think. And then drill down more or less in the center. And look, that seems to work. I like it. While I was at it, I replaced the friction disc with a new one that I cut on the router table. It's round now, instead of not round like the last one was faceted, really. And here's some footage of my elbow for some reason. And I cut a couple more pieces out on the plasma cutter. Which I welded into some angle iron, and that gave me a way of attaching another market find, a fine old tractor seat. No more stoop running along behind the Loco. Ooh, no, getting posh now, see? Except I'm heavier than I thought. Too many ginger biscuits, Tim. The idea is to have a foot pedal for the clutch one day, but use my left hand to adjust the speed and the direction, so that's why the seat is where it is, and it's also comfortable. I'm really beginning to hope that this project actually ends up working, because I'm beginning to like this little locomotive a lot. I'm even wondering what to call it. Any suggestions? But we're a long way off that still. I was able to buy a V-belt that wasn't too far off what I wanted, though I did have to make another top pulley, and that pulley is even bigger, and that changed the gearing again, and that caused more slippage of the friction wheel, and that really is emerging as the biggest challenge. But there is another challenge too. You see, the V-belts only work when they're tight, and that means the top pulley is jammed on the drive shaft all the time, when really it should be loose enough to slide along the shaft easily. Now, if I was using a chain and sprocket, they could be much looser, and so a simple retainer should keep the sprocket in the right place, I'm thinking. But as I'm using a pulley and belt, I'm having to adjust the pulley position constantly, and the belt jumps off, often very annoying. The gearing is so high now, or so low, I don't know which, depending on how you look at it. It's hard to get it started, especially as the Loco is actually sitting on its flanges on the rough concrete, not sitting on its treads on smooth rail. I did actually put it up on a couple of pieces of square box section, but it was too short really to test it properly. So when Ashley came around, we hauled the Loco out onto the proper tracks and tried again, with pretty mixed results, to be honest. Once we were up to speed, it worked fine, but just getting it started was trickier.
Nice.
Come on, baby. Come. It hit a piece of grass. I think that's what looking for.
Oh yeah, it's a big bit.
It did go forward though.
It did. Dry.
Oh. I've got my flip top. No, flip top.
Nope.
That's gone. Oh no, hey, it's backwards. It's forward. Forward.
Oh.
Felt off.
Wasn't watching.
See, as I go up to speed,
I've got to tap in, yeah.
and that speed is what we're testing now.
Yep.
As well as tap.
Oh, you're full speed.
Ready? Okay, so nothing's happening. Oh yeah. Okay, just flipping. Flipping.
Look, beware of trains, sheep. You try it in full speed reverse. Try it in reverse because it won't slip off in reverse.
No, but
Oh.
that came off anyway.
And you might well be thinking, this is so far off working properly that it's not really worth continuing. And I promise I have thought that too quite a few times, but I have decided to continue, even though that means spending some money now real money on sprockets and chain and stuff, and that might not sort out the gearing completely, but it should get me a lot closer. So I'm waiting for things to arrive now. The other thing is about the friction wheel slippage. You see, I'm now thinking that my rubber sheet that I cut the discs from isn't really rubber at all. I'm thinking it's more plasticky than rubbery, maybe, which would explain why it's not gripping properly. I asked ChatGPT for an easy way to distinguish between rubber and plastic, and it said set fire to everything and smell them. I should be able to smell the difference. So I did that, of course. Friction disc material, rubber band, recycled plastic, candle flame. They did all smell different, really, and none of them smelt very nice. But I'm guessing that any rubber you find these days isn't really a whole completely rubber, it's just a mixture of different things. So I'm still not sure what I really have here. But anyway, I've ordered some urethane sheet instead, and apparently that's your only man for friction drives these days. Urethane, polyurethane, kind of slightly sticky, rubbery stuff. I think they use it on skateboard wheels. And if and when that turns up, we'll know for sure if this was a silly idea from the beginning, or actually quite a simple transmission system that works. It could go either way, people. It's a bit like this locomotive.